Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with another brew with the Stoneforge Mystic. You knew this was going to happen. Throwing the good old SFM in my favorite deck of all times for Modern, which is Soul Sisters. I have already tested this out, and this is quite the potent deck. This is a very, very, very good card to slot into to Soul Sisters because of two key equipment that can be thrown in this deck. So I've decided just to throw this in the Archangel of Thune list. Still need to get... I need to acquire some more tickets so I can mess around with this list. I'm thinking the Knight Captain of Eos or the Ranger Captain of Eos, whichever the one that came out of Modern Horizons, the 3 mana, might just be better, or at least go a half-seas of these, like maybe 2 and 2, because this deck is very greedy as far as mana is concerned, but you don't want to be playing all lands because you do... the slots are very, very competitive for what you are going to put in this deck. I've already cut all sort of Anthem effects like Honor of the Pure, which does make us very susceptible to Plague Engineer. However, I think that this list has the most explosiveness to it, as well as has a nice little toolbox feel to it with the Stoneforge Mystic. So, again, this is just the shell we've seen with the Archangel of Thune list before. It's going to run the 4 Auriok Champions, the 3 Soul Wardens, and the 4 Soul Attendants, which is the base of the Soul Sisters. I still like these Auriok Champions in the main. There are plenty of black and red decks out there. This card is just a boss. A lot of people will put this in the sideboard. However, I think the Auriok Champion is deserving in the main, and it gets even better to be able to hook it up with the equipment. In this list, I'm only going to run 2 Serra Ascendants. They're pretty weak right now in the meta. There's a lot of Assassin Trophies and Path to Exiles and Fatal Pushes and things like that, and it just doesn't feel like the payoff for getting that 6/6 lifelinker out is there without the Martyr of Sands. So it's just a 2 of. It's still something you can toot up with Ranger of Eos. Even better, you can toot up 2 of them with Ranger of Eos when you do have that 30 life, and it's not overkill to put 2 more in. However, there's just not enough slots for them. Legion's Landing is still a 2 of in this deck. Typically, if I'm going to play a full package of Archangel of Thunes, I want to go all out on Legion's Landings and Serra Ascendants, because you want to get that Legion's Landing flip, because it's usually you want to get Archangel of Thune out on turn number 4. So you want a lot of creatures to either flip the Legion's Landing or flip the Windbrisk Heights. So creatures out early with this deck is very important. However, Stoneforge Mystic is slowing that down, and so I did cut an Archangel of Thune and therefore cut some Legion Landings. We're still running Pridemate, but the more I play this list, the weaker Pridemate gets. Pridemate actually might get cut from Soul Sisters. I don't think I'd ever say that. However, it just seems to be in an awkward position right now in the meta, being chump blocked, or just lots of removal being the key removal piece. If you take out the Ajani's Pridemate, then you could care less about the rest of your cards being removed because they all are offering some sort of potential value. The Soul Attendants, or the Soul Sisters, still have value with Archangel of Thune, and so Ajani's Pridemate isn't really necessary as your finisher. And you can even go like a heavier of the Legion's Landing and the Serra Ascendants, which also makes you more explosive to getting the Windbrisk Heights and the Legion's Landing flipped. However, Pridemate still is basically the only card that's going to win you the game versus Tron. If you have any hope at all to beating that matchup, is to get a first turn Attendant or Soul Sister into a second turn Ajani's Pridemate, or the Legion's Landing or Serra Ascendant also work with a lifelink, and then you can get the Pridemate big enough, hopefully, to swing for lethal before they stabilize. That's still a long shot, but I mean, it's really the only way you beat some of those combo-based decks and Trons and those later base strategies. So I am keeping the Ajani's Pridemate in here for now. Ranger of Eos tutors up the Serra Ascendant / one of the Soul Sisters. Again, though, might be too many. Maybe we could cut down, but Ranger of Eos is actually tutoring up one of the key cards in this particular deck, and that is Walking Ballista. So if we're in Stoneforge Mystic, one of the things that Stoneforge Mystic can actually tutor up is the Basilisk Collar. Basilisk Collar and Walking Ballista have an infinite combo with Archangel of Thune. So Archangel of Thune says whenever you gain life, you put a +1 counter on each creature you control. Walking Ballista allows you to remove a +1 counter to do a damage to each target, and the Basilisk Collar is going to be able to give the Walking Ballista lifelink. So it's a very easy strategy to set up. This can also happen with the Batterskull on the Walking Ballista. However, Basilisk Collar also makes the death touch on the Walking Ballista very real. If you end up casting this for 6 mana, you have 3 things you can kill with the Walking Ballista, Death Touch. Batterskull, of course, is the other thing that we're going to be tutoring up with the Stoneforge Mystic, and that's basically it. Those are the 2 equipment. We are running 4 Stoneforge Mystics and only 2 targets. However, I think that's plenty. I do have more in the sideboard that usually will come in game 2 and 3 when you actually know what you're up against. So you usually will have like 3 or 4 swords that are or equipments that are available to tutor up. Still around Spectral Processions because flipping Legion's Landings and Windbrisk Heights still seems really, really good in this deck. And we also added the little tech of adding the Mistveil Plains. So Mistveil Plains can shuffle a card back into your library. So that's another way if a Batterskull or a Basilisk Collar got ripped out of your hand from a Thoughtseize, you can shuffle it back in and then tutor it back up with a Stoneforge Mystic. It's another way to get your Walking Ballista back with like Ranger of Eos. So the Walking Ballista you had to use early, possibly. You can then shuffle it back in your library with the Mistveil Plains. And then tutor it back up with a later on Ranger of Eos. So I think Mistveil Plains definitely wants to be in this list. We can get it with Flagstones of Trokair. So if we kill our Flagstones with either Ghost Quarter or multiple Flagstones of Trokair, we're usually going to be tutoring up the Mistveil Plains. All right, that's the gist of the main. The sideboard is pretty similar to most of my Soul Sister sideboards. Unfortunately, the swords make us a lot less potent against a variety of decks. We have Sword of Truth and Justice. Not sure that this card actually wants to be in here after testing it. Protection from white and blue, and when it deals combat damage, you put a +1 counter on a creature you control, then proliferate. It's pretty decent to put a +1 counter on a Walking Ballista, but after that, it's not that great. With Archangel of Thune, the proliferate's pretty decent too, but I'm not sure if the Truth and Justice might want to be switched out for some other sword, or if we have enough just by Light and Shadow, Fire and Ice, and Feast and Famine. Actually, I don't even think Feast and Famine is that great in this particular deck because the untapping of the lands is not that relevant with our deck unless you have like a Walking Ballista you can then pump mana into. But the 2 swords that are really, really good are Sword of Fire and Ice and Sword of Light and Shadow. These are our premier swords here. So these 2 I'm still testing out. The black-red one I don't believe is that great either, unless we are really relying on killing like Wrenn and 6s and other planeswalkers that the other sword allows us to kill. However, yeah, eventually these might just be cut down and then just go down to the 2 of, but it's also the protection colors from these particular ones that are interesting. Black and green with sort of Feast and Famine, white and blue seems pretty good in modern with the Sword of Truth and Justice. But again, it's going to require a lot more testing to see where we're at with this deck. So on the sideboard, we have Ajani, Strength of Pride as a 2 of. This card definitely is a great sideboard card. It's the way you beat Mirror midrange. I almost want 3 in the sideboard, but I don't know where I'd slot it in. And I kind of want some Martyr of Sands in the sideboard as well. That's when we really define what swords we want in this particular meta. I think 2 swords are going to come out, and then another Ajani, Strength of Pride, and a Martyr of Sands comes in. That allows you to get up to that 35 life on the particular turn where you need it to happen, and then be able to exile all of your opponent's artifacts and creatures. This ability is very underrated in Modern. This card is very underrated in Modern. Won a ton of games with the Ajani just on a stalemate board because Soul Sister is great about stalemating the board, but sometimes can't push through the damage on a game. Yesterday when I was testing this deck, my opponent had a very similar Stoneforge Mystic build. We were both he had a Batterskull out. I had a massive Ajani's Pridemate that couldn't attack into the Batterskull, and it was just this stalemate that neither one of us could attack into each other without being on the worst end of the deal. And then I was able to top deck the Ajani Strength of Pride and just win the game because we were both at obscene life totals and was able to exile my opponent's board and keep mine. So Ajani Strength of Pride is a very, very good card. Anyway, that's enough of the deck tech. Let's go ahead and play some games. Not going to test this out right now in a league. However, we will just go up and queue up here in the practice room. So there is one we got going here against the Metcalf, and see what we can come up with our Stoneforge Mystic. See if I can live the dream. It's funny, the very first game that I played with this deck, with the Archangel of Thune, Walking Ballista, Basilisk Collar combo, we got it off. So I'm hoping for the same on this one. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and keep this hand. We got a Flagstones. We got double Stoneforge Mystic. Kind of awkward again. This is where our 1-drops make the Johnny's Pridemate a lot weaker. but it's fine. So our opponent is a Plains and passes the turn. And we'll start off with a Flagstones, and hopefully we get a 1-drop to pair with his Pridemate. So let's see if that is the case. We don't really have any dead draws here. Another land would be nice. Batterskull actually is a dead draw. Yeah, it's very dead. Okay, maybe I shouldn't speak that soon about cards. I mean, we can still... At least it's unknown information for my opponent when I tutor up the Basilisk Collar with the Stoneforge Mystic. Because we'll be going for the Stoneforge now for the Basilisk Collar. There is a Leonin Sky Hunter, huh? Well, this is what I guess happens when you're in the testing room. 2/2 flyer for 2 is definitely not something that is, unless there's some sort of night build. But this is where Ajani out of the sideboard would be really, really good. Alright, so I could go... Ghost Quarter, yeah, Ghost Quarter, Stoneforge Mystic is good. Throw it out and grab ourselves a Basilisk Collar. Don't know what my opponent is stalling for. If I just get someone that's upset we're using Stoneforge Mystic. We're in the tournament practice though, right? Alright, so we go and tutor the Basilisk Collar. Come on, Metcalf, you're tapped out. Pass the priority. You can do it. All right, there's the Basilisk Collar, and pass the turn back to our opponent. And next turn, we'll be able to play the Batterskull. We'll keep up the Batterskull. So the Sky Hunter's coming in. I'm taking 2. No blocks. And then no lands by our opponent either. We'll just play the Plains. And that's fine. We'll play the Basilisk Collar. And then pass a turn. And then we'll flash in the Batterskull at the end of my opponent's turn. I don't know if my opponent can actually come back from that with missing a land drop with a 4/4 Death Touch lifelink. If so, we do have all the mana we really need to really start going on full cylinders here. We do have a way we can shuffle back into Stoneforge Mystic or the Batterskull if it does get killed by any sort of targeted removal. So what I'm really liking about this Flagstone Ghost Quarter combo, because I'm thinking like Kolaghan's Command is going to become very, very utilized in this format with the Batterskull Stoneforge Mystic, and it's a way for us to shuffle it back in. Because you don't want to be running a lot of Batterskulls. And maybe you do. Maybe there's an entire like Soul Sisters list. I mean, go away from the Soul Sisters and just have this kind of white Stoneforge Mystic deck with the Archangel of Thune. You do still want the Soul Sisters, though, because that's what triggers the Archangel of Thune immediately. So go to the end step here. And here comes the Batterskull. And our opponent missed a land drop, too, so this isn't the best showing. This is why I usually like to queue up in tournaments, but don't have enough time to play an entire 5-series tournament today. Things will start to slow down in the end of summer here, and I'll get more time to actually stream and play. I'll probably be doing more of the streaming and then turning them into YouTube videos with highlights later on, so I'm sure you'll be able to catch me on stream. All right, so we're going to go ahead and I think at this point we're going to tap for a mana, just kill the Flagstones. Now watch my opponent instant speed use I can't search my library. Then I will cry. But nevertheless, we'll be able still just to play like a Ajani's Pridemate. My opponent will be tapped out and then get in for 4. I think that's probably the better play. And yes, we like to use this ability. Get the untapped Plains with the Ghost Quarters, and then we go and grab the Mistveil Plains, because this comes into play tapped no matter what. And then we will go, I think Pridemate's still the better. I really do think Pridemate's the better card here. So this will probably get a Path to Exile on like the Germ token or the Pridemate. So just go ahead and attack in with the 2. And Pridemate will turn into a 3/3. We'll go back up to 20. And we are in great shape. Did I not play a land drop there? And opponent scoops up, can't beat a Batterskull. We'd bring in Truth and Justice and Light and Shadow. I'd keep everything else. We probably would actually even want to bring in sort of Fire and Ice. It seems like all of our equipment do very, very well against this matchup. This is something where Auriok Champion isn't necessary. Whenever you know you're going up against something where the Auriok Champion does not get the protection, even though it is a Soul Sister, it's still not worthwhile to put in. Mirror-based, creature-based matchups, usually Ajani Strength of Pride is an all-star. And then we could take out something like an Archangel of Thune. It's just not necessary, I would say, in this. Or we could keep it in and just bust out a land. Other than we've actually got we've increased our. Wonder if like Spectral Procession. Yeah, well, usually Spectral Procession and Archangel of Thune is how you beat these mirrors. Because I want to keep most of these cards in. Because we could get rid of like a Legion's Landing. We could actually get rid of a land. I'll just get rid of one Spectral Procession and submit this. Spectral Procession actually might be a card that wants to go down to a 3 of. And hopefully we get to see a Stoneforge in our opening hand again. Might actually be a mistake that this card was unbanned. I think that it is absolutely taking over the meta. And we'll give our opponent a little more time here. Let's go ahead and kind of check over what we could do with our deck while we wait for our opponent. Again, I don't know if my opponent is just rage. This is the MTGO is actually, I don't know what has worse behavior, MTGO or MTG Arena. Both are a cesspool for just salty people. Amount of people that just use their timeouts on MTG Arena makes the game unplayable at times. Hey, there we go. Now my opponent's waiting on me. All right, so we definitely are going to keep this hand. Yeah, it's keepable. We can lead off with the Mistveil Plains, and then we have the Sword of Light and Shadow to follow it up, a Student of Warfare. And we actually have a Walking Ballista that can take care of that if we so choose. So this does seem like a casual Knights build. Legion's Landing might just be better here. I like the Legion's Landing play. Because then that sets us up for an Ajani's Pridemate. And then, if that's assuming my opponent's going to level up and attack for 3. And level up is a sorcery, so if my opponent does tack in, we'll just make the trade, I believe, with the Student of Warfare. I'm thinking the latter is going to be the obvious answer, or the obvious choice here is just play a Plains, level up twice, and attack in. And that seems to be the case. So opponent is leveling up, has first strike now, and it's a 3/3, and attacking in. And then we will be able to cast the Ajani's Pridemate, get the Pridemate up to a 3/3. And then go from there. Don't think it, like even a Soul Sister off the top will change our plan. Nope, another Plains. So we'll Pridemate it up. And swing in. Get up to a 3/3. We have the good old Sword of Light and Shadow. I don't even think it's too big of an issue if my opponent Path to Exiles the Ajani's Pridemate because then it ramps us into a Ranger, and then the Ranger can just go get us 2 Soul Sisters, and then it's going to be hard for my opponent to really come back with the damage versus life gain. All right, so a Silverblade Paladin is going to give double strike to the Student of Warfare. That gets a little more interesting here, but we are a life gain deck. I think I can recover from it. We have chump blockers in the form of the Vampire here. And we'll allow it to happen. I'll go down to a 12. So I have some options. So Mistveil Plains to get the Ranger out on time. The Sword of Light and Shadow that can... Okay, Walking Ballista on 1. That actually seems bad. So I actually like this play more. We're going to have Mistveil Plains. And then Soul Attendant. That way if my opponent plays another creature, Ajani's Pridemate just trades with the Student of Warfare. We're not going to attack in. We're just going to pass the turn. And then next turn, we have a couple of decent options. Walking Ballista on 2, kill the Silverblade Paladin. Or we have Ranger to go get more Soul Sisters. I most likely will end up chump blocking the Student of Warfare here. Knight Exemplar, they all have Indestructible now. And +1/+1. Yeah, I think we do need to chump block. And then this definitely will be kill the Knight Exemplar with the Walking Ballista. And he's going to attack him with the Silverblade Paladin. And we will go ahead, block here. And go down to a 7. And yeah, that does force our hand, I think. We could have a blocker with Ranger of Eos. Just go level up on the... There's another Soul Warden. But I think this is fine. We'll Walking Ballista for 2. And I don't know what's in my opponent's deck. I think it's just a safe route here to... My opponent double strikes, though. Like, I could block with the Walking Ballista and kill the Knight Exemplar. And that would be the better play. But that leaves me open to any sort of combat trick. I think that still is the better play. Because I don't want to be taking the damage. I want to be taking the Silverblade Paladin and then not losing anything. But I could just end up... Yeah, that Nykthos Shrine to Nyx now gets very troubling with the Knight Exemplar. Because I can't react to that. So it's going to add 5 mana. So I guess it only ramps up by 2 mana. So we'll see what comes out here. Because technically my opponent could probably unload their hand with like Path to Exiles and then I just lose. Banishing Light, okay. So Banishing Light, and it's going to go on the Ajani's Pridemate, I assume. And indeed it does. So it's 4 mana available. And that sucks. All right. I think we just lost with the Knight Exemplar. We were slow, though, and my opponent pretty much had the nuts. I do have to block on the Student of Warfare. And I don't know what can actually get me out of this now. So the block happens on the Student of Warfare. We take 6. And go to a 3. Ghost Quarter won't do it. Ghost Quarter. So I go Soul. Nope, that's going to be a game here. We don't have enough blockers. But yeah, not a lot needs to come in. Like, still, we don't want our champion. That's fine. We're on the play here, and we should be able to get the jump on our opponent. Still don't think I need paths. You could make the argument for bringing in paths just for the Knight Exemplar. It's just a 4 of in the deck, though. And it's something that I've played against many other decks like this that try to just go bigger. So these are kind of the mid-range aggro strategies in Modern. So you have like Merfolk, you have a bunch of these other decks that work very similar to it. And I think Path to Exile is a trap because it uses a card for a card and actually ramps them. Whereas you're a life gain deck, you can clog the board with things like Spectral Processions and block until you get your big creatures. Like Ajani's Pridemate, if without that Banishing Light, could have been bigger even with Double Strike within a few turns and just block those Double Strikers indefinitely. Getting out that sort of Light and Shadow, possibly I should have done that rather than the Walking Ballista, but then it would have been another +1/+1 counter. Yeah, not sure if that's where I want to go either. I don't know. I think it's fine. But wonder if Sword and Truth of Justice even needs to come in with Pro White. I think Pro White is something that wants to come in here. We'll wait and see what our opponent ends up doing. Hopefully we see the Soul Warden into the Pridemate. All right, yes, we'd like to play first. Let's go ahead and cry. This is keepable. I think we will just, in all honesty, yeah, it's still Soul Warden. Yeah, Soul Warden's the play. It's keepable. We have the Windbrisk Heights that is one away from getting Spectral Procession to online or one away from any other creature. We have the Ajani Strength of Pride, which just wins the game if we get the 35 life. Our opponent's mulling, get a 6. Probably trying to find those lords. And really thinking about it. Okay, keeps the 6. And we'll lead off with the good old Soul Sister. If my opponent allows me to go to my main phase. Soul Warden it is. Pass the turn. And next turn, Windbrisk Heights into Legion's Landing. I would like to draw a land here. So if it goes with a Student of Warfare, we'll at least gain a life. And there is no 1-drop. Means our opponent's full of 2 and 3s. I wonder if they run Vial in their deck. Path to Exile. That's fine. That's fine. That seems to be a weird target. I mean, it's not the win con. And then that just ramped me up to the Spectral Processions. So there's another Ajani Strength of Pride. We'll grab that. We don't want the Batterskull because it's something you'd be tutored easily. And then we have the Legion's Landing. Unfortunately, though, Ajani's kind of awkward here with just these Spectral Processions. I mean, we can +1 it and gain some life and then block for a couple turns. But, I mean, I think we're going to be needing to block pretty aggressively. Now with the Stony Silence is another one that's awkward. It shuts down my equipments, but one of them is just a 4/4 lifelinker. And this one's actually interesting, but I actually think it's just Spectral Processions. Yeah, I don't think you bring in Stony Silence. So I think that's going to be the game with not having a 1-drop, and then... because we'll get the Ajani Strength of Pride, and we can still even leave back a vampire to block if our opponent puts something out, and then just immediately plus Ajani Strength of Pride, which will give us... well, maybe we actually still do minus. Not even sold on Ajani coming off of. So they do have some powerful 3-drops as we saw before. There's the Fiend Slayer, which is actually very, very weak against us. And there's a Flagstones. Flagstone is interesting because we could just hardcast Ajani. But no, what we want to do is we want to put out Ajani's Pridemate. And attack in with the 3 flyers. And that actually does flip the Legion's Landing, which is good. And an opponent goes down to a 16. And then play the Ajani. And I am just going to immediately +1 Ajani. It will gain me 5 life. Yeah, because if I minus, I lose. No, I think minusing for another Pridemate is fine here. Actually, I have 3 blockers at that point. Oh, I'm in damage. Still can't do. So I gain 5 life here, 6 life here. Yeah, we'll actually plus. Because we have this other Ajani Strength of Pride we can just hard cast if we get up to 35. So have a 3/3 Pridemate, a 1/1 Vampire. And our opponent's down to 3 cards. Banishing Light on my Ajani. Womp womp. Kind of hurts. Not terrible, though. Because it's actually now an Ajani we'll get back from another Ajani. That seems pretty good. Can't attack into the Fiend Slayer Paladin. I feel like I'm going to start running in some equipment by now, though. There's a Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter allows us to do the Flagstone little combo and get the Windbrisk Heights, or the other. But I might want to save the Ghost Quarter for there. No, we won't want to save it for. So I think we just Ranger here and grab 2 Soul Sisters. I don't think we get a... yes, we do get a Serra's Ascendant. Possibly get a Serra's Ascendant. That'd put us up to, and our opponent scoops it up. All right, so pretty typical, straightforward matchup. You didn't really see anything special from the Stoneforge Mystic. Let's do one more, and let's see here. Number of players 2. All right, I don't even know how to do this. Let's go ahead and create it. Hopefully, it does a best of 2. Yes, indeed, it does. So yeah, I think the Sword of Truth and Justice and the Feast and Famine actually go out. There's not enough justification for sort of Feast and Famine in this deck. Like, Feast and Famine is better with more of a control-based strategy, I would say, to lock your opponent and have something to do with your mana after the fact. I don't think it fits. So I'd cut 2 swords, put another Ajani, maybe put a Martyr in main. All right, so this is a keepable hand. We have the Archangel of Thune we can easily get to with 2 more lands, 2 Soul Sisters, Ranger of Eos. It's not the most explosive hand, but this is like a good hand versus other mid-range or aggro-based strategies. Our opponent is mulliganing to 6 cards, keeps their 6. We will Flagstone it up and put out a Soul Sister. How bad did Burn get hurt with the Stoneforge Mystic, though, for the turn 3 Batterskulls? I wonder if how that will affect it. So it could be going against Storm, or any of the storms that existed at this point. Serum Visions could, of course, mean anything. Could still be Phoenix. I wonder if Phoenix was able to survive without Faithless Looting. I know the blue one definitely does better. I don't want to run the Flagstones out yet, or do I? To get a... Yeah, that's actually okay. So we're going to go Soul Warden. And then Flagstones. Keep this Flagstones. Kill this Flagstones. And we can go get the Mistveil Plains. That way we don't draw a tap land. And we have the Ranger that we can draw for. Our opponent takes 1 here. No dead draws. Literally no dead draws in the deck. Even Batterskull's not a dead draw. Both the equipments are kind of meh, but they're not horrible. See if there's a Goblin. No Goblin Electromancer or Barrel, so that's good news for us. Still no Lightning Strike on a card. Best case scenario we can draw is a Spectral Processions, actually, I think would be a little more powerful than Ajani's Pridemate, because that allows us to get even more power on board, and then if we top deck into another land, it's lethal with Archangel of Thune coming down. And that's like a turn 5 race versus Storm. I mean, that's the only way we beat it. We typically do very bad versus combo-based decks. All right, Basilisk Collar. Again, need to quit talking about cards that would be bad to draw, because then I always draw them. However, we do get ins for some damage and some life. And we have the Ranger that's coming out next turn, which can go grab us. 2 more Soul Sisters. Okay, your blue-red deck, you probably ought to start doing something here, I'd assume. But again, we don't have a very good plan versus Storm at all. In fact, I think our opponent probably just wins next turn. I don't think Sword of Fire and Ice does very well here. Manamorphose. My opponent's going to try to go for it? I mean, it can happen. I think you'd want to wait a turn rather than just try to go for it here. I mean, I guess if you have double Manamorphose, card that should be banned.com, in your hand, you can go for it. However, it's still, like, you're not in any threat of dying, so I think having 2 untapped lands, rather than, like, if you whiff here, which is very, very feasible that they whiff, they could just lose the game here. And did have to bottom a card with Opt, because the issue is going to be blue mana. The issue is not going to be red mana; it's going to be blue mana. So they're going to have to flash back the Manamorphose. But we still don't win this. It's going to be, our opponent's going to have 2 turns before we can even think of lethal. And yeah, what we have out right now is definitely not enough power. But don't think that was a correct decision to try to go off. So Grape Shot on the 2, the Soul Warden and the Soul Attendant. And then some damage to my face, but yeah, that is probably fair enough. Use quite a bit of resources. We get the Ranger to fill back up with Soul Wardens and Soul Attendants. And we draw another Ranger. That's not where I want to be. So we're actually going to grab a Soul Warden and a Walking Ballista, I think. Because that, yeah, Walking Ballista, I think, gets us closer to the combo. And we can actually cast the Walking Ballista next turn and throw it on the Basilisk Collar and kill the Barrel. But, that seems pretty bad. Because Storm usually just needs 4 mana. So there's the Ritual into... Blue mana is still going to be an issue. I'm assuming like a Gifts Ungiven here. There's the Gifts. They're going to get a Manamorphose and a most likely just a Ritual. And then maybe a Pass in Flames to throw in the graveyard. So I'm going to choose the Manamorphose to go in the graveyard. And I believe just one of the Rituals. So Manamorphose and Desperate Ritual in the graveyard. But I still think my opponent has enough mana. So there's 3 for the Ritual that goes into the hand. Yeah, this is enough because my opponent can still Pass in Flames. So either way that I do it, it is rough. Can my opponent do 21 in a turn, though? Because blue mana is not going to be an issue with the 3 Manamorphose. That's, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's game. All right, we die. So let's go to the sideboard. Our only hope versus this cheese deck is to throw in the Rest in Peace. I don't think we bring in anything else. The Batterskull is actually kind of bad here. Even the Stoneforge Mystics are kind of bad here. Because they're just too slow. This is just an unwinnable matchup, is Storm. Especially the way we have the sideboard built. It's like Moldo Rest in Peace, and then get it up to enough life total. So maybe the Batterskull does stand, but it's like Walking Ballista and the Archangels that are just way too slow. And possibly just bring in the Fire and Ice. The Fire and Ice is the Basilisk Collar can come out, and possibly like the Light and Shadow, I guess, would be the right route to go. But I don't want Ajani Strengths the Prides. I don't want anything else. I don't want Path to Exiles. It doesn't do anything versus this deck. So, like, really the thing is either Mold to a Rest in Peace. That's really what it is. And then hopefully the Rest in Peace slows down our opponent enough. But luckily for us, Storm doesn't see that much play. It might have got better because people using less Graveyard Hate. We could go for a Batterskull. I'm going to keep it. It doesn't have the Rest in Peace, but we do have a Soul Attendant and a Ajani's Pridemate and into a Spectral Processions that could theoretically be quick enough if my opponent does have to go to a turn 4. So typically, those are the 2 hands I'm going to keep, a Rest in Peace hand or a Soul Attendant into a Ajani's Pridemate. Opponent does mulligan to 6 again. Yeah, it's definitely not Stoneforge Mystic and a Batterskull. But hoping Wizards will eventually do the right thing. Like, Faithless Looting is a good start. See, I'm still in the philosophy we should be banning more cards than not, because I believe that some of these cards are very detrimental to the format, are just detrimental to Magic in general because they weren't thought through when they actually printed them, and that's usually the free spells. Almost every free spell, hand manipulation spells that cost 1 and free spells like Taxing Probe have been a problem, and I think I'm just flabbergasted that Manamorphose hasn't hit that list yet, because it's another free spell that just triggers off. It makes it very tough for them to print like prowess cards and triggers off of casting spell cards because how powerful cards like Manamorphose and Taxing Probe are with those cards. So I'm assuming that Manamorphose will eventually be banned from Modern. And it's not necessarily Storm that I have an issue with. It's just other decks, too, that utilize Manamorphose for the fixing, too, that they can just go off with drawing their entire library, certain decks, and then fixing for the perfect colors they need, things like that. All right, so this turn we'll go ahead and go the Ajani's Pridemate, and we have the 3/3. So hopefully our opponent didn't bring in lightning bolts. And we will next turn go with the Spectral Processions. We'll put our Ajani's Prime up to a 6/6. It's iffy. I could go Stoneforge Mystic, Windbrisk Heights. That actually might be more impactful. Yeah, I wonder. Because then we can go get a sword. And there's a Manamorphose right off the bat. Seems a little bit early. Seems really early to be grape shotting. And I'll take a grape shot at this point. That's a lot of resources. There's a sleight of hand. Now what in the world is going to happen? There's the blue, and then no more mana. So it looks a little desperation. I think my opponent is just... Both of these games, they are very desperate with Storm. And in certain matchups, you don't need to be desperate. And Soul Sister is absolutely one of them. This is interesting with hitting the land drops. For the next few turns, we can hit Archangel of Thune. But the Spectral Procession goes up by 6 and gives us... I am going to go the Windbrisk Heights. It seems okay. This seems like an okay play. And this allows us for the Rest in Peace. That might be what we're looking for. So the Rest in Peace coming down. Any order on these. We're going to go ahead and Stoneforge Mystic. And Stoneforge Mystic can go get us the Batterskull, I still think is the better play. And then we'll go ahead and attack in for 5. And hopefully my opponent can't grape shot this turn, because then we get the Rest in Peace off of the Windbrisk Heights. Might be a mistake. It could have ended up being the wrong play. Sort of Fire and Ice could have been a decent play too. To hook up against like a Barrel. But sleight of hand basically, yeah. Now my opponent just has 2 mana, access to 2 mana. They'd have to have the perfect hand with a lot of rituals. Already Manamorphose is burned too. So Rest in Peace is going to get rid of fairly good amount of resources here. And also allows us to hopefully cast whatever we have off the top of our library. I don't know, Batterskull is quite weak. Maybe this card comes out versus Storm. Maybe I keep the Archangel of Thunes in as a way to race. I actually think I do. So if this goes to a game 3, I think we actually do take Batterskull out. Maybe we just take the equipment strategy out. So Desperate Ritual. Needs to have another Manamorphose in hand. Could easily go for a Grape Shot and kill Pyretic Ritual. And there's the Grape Shot. So it's gonna kill the Stoneforge Mystic and the Soul Attendant. But that's still a lot of resources. Then we'll be able to put out the Spectral Procession. And still get it for 4 with the Ajani's Pridemate. Have my opponent only access to 3 cards. Okay, not too shabby. We have another Plains. That kind of, we're gonna definitely thin out our deck with the Flagstones so we don't draw so many lands. Go and get the tap land and swing in for 4. Put my opponent down to a 10. But this is where it gets scary. They don't have a Lord out here, or a Electromancer or a Barrel out here. They've blown some pretty decent rituals. Could have like an Echoing Truth that could still be. There's the Electromancer. Can they go off with just 2 cards in hand? Be very, very tough. Now they can't with the Sleight of Hand. So Sleight of Hand, they've already played the land. No, they have not played a land. So theoretically, they could still play a land and really go crazy here with a perfect draw, but there's an opt, and the Rest in Peace is just going to wreck all the resources, and I'm expecting a scoop after the Rest in Peace comes down. So I wonder if the other play, though, would have just flat out won the game if we would have gone. The Spectral Processions would be getting it for more damage, and those would have got Grape Shotted, but 6 and 6 would have been lethal. Not quite sure. Really decided on what he wants to do with the opt. Puts on the bottom of their library. And passes the turn back. And we get another Plains because thinning your deck never works. And we'll go and attack with everything, which is 1 off. Guess I could have just... no, casting the Batterskull would not put a counter on my Ajani's Pridemate. I don't have a Soul Sister out. So, opponent's graveyard gets exiled. There's not enough resources left, of course, after that. So, yeah, I think Batterskull is bad. Light and Shadow and Fire and Ice. I think the whole entire Stoneforge Mystic package might not be the right route to go. And we could bring in, like, Mark of Asylum and the Archangel of Thunes, and possibly even the Ajani's. I think I think they're just slightly quicker, Walking Ballista, I guess, than going the Stoneforge route here. And you don't bring in the Path to Exiles. It's just awkward. Like, Archangel of Thune does give us that access to that possible turn 4 kill with the Windbrisk Heights and a bunch of Soul Sisters, or possible just a turn 5 kill. This one is most likely not going to get us there. We do have Leech's Landing into Ajani's Pridemate, but double Flagstones. I'd like to get a Rest in Peace. This is even worse. So I'm going to mulligan one last time to try to hit that Rest in Peace. Possibly that was a keepable hand. Do it one more time. This is actually good, though. So we can throw Plains and Plains away. Or Plains and Plains is fine. And we do have the Ajani's Pridemate hand is the good news. The bad news is we don't have a Rest in Peace. Ranger's pretty bad. But these are the hands. The Ajani's Pridemate is the hand that beats the Storm, or possibly can beat the Storm. Don't know if I go Auriok Champion. Does that... No. That doesn't add more counters. So I actually would like to draw a land here to try to get to the Ranger of Eos. A Soul Sister, or another Ajani's Pridemate may be okay. A Rest in Peace, of course, would be the best thing to draw. So, opponent does not go for anything crazy this time. There is a land. So, let's chuck it out. And check out the Ajani's Pridemate. See, there's like a Lightning Bolt. Typically, if Storm players do bring in Lightning Bolts in this matchup. Still kind of slow, though. And no Goblin Electromancer still from our opponent. And that is something that is very necessary for the reduction. Opponent's going to opt again. And puts on the bottom. So definitely digging for that Barrel / Goblin Electromancer. Still does need the third land as well. There's not a lot of lands in Storm. I believe it's like an 18-land deck. is all. So they are very subject to bad draws. And especially with both ops putting cards on the bottom of their library. There is the other Reef. Reef is taxing them too. It's done more damage than I have at this point. There's the Barrel. Awesome. There's the Rest in Peace. Has a Remand, which is okay. Cost a life. Does get a loot with Barrel. So that's getting scary. And then throws away another one. We'll go get the Mistveil Plains and attacking with the Ajani's Pridemate. But I think we're just too slow. I think we're going to lose here by turn 4 with Storm. Storm is just too consistent with the mana. So Remand does get us. I would like to hit another land next turn. Not sure if it actually matters. Slide a hand down to a 10 though. The Reefs are definitely taxing our opponent. Still needs to find that Manamorphose and the Gifts Ungiven. Possibly needs to find that 4th land now. Just passing the turn. All right, land off the top. You can do it. There is a land off the top. It is a Ghost Quarters. So we'll do the Rest in Peace again. See if it's remanded again. And it does not. And we'll do the Auriok Champion, which puts my opponent on a 2-turn clock. Now, Gifts Ungiven is shut down, but there could be like an Echoing Truth in my opponent's hand. But we are putting pressure. Echoing Truth on the Ajani's Pridemate, huh? I assume that it'd be on the Rest in Peace, because the Rest in Peace, yes, my opponent can go off with just one old grape shot to the face. It can happen. However, it's more unlikely. I think you bounce the Rest in Peace there, not the Pridemate, and give yourself another turn to go off this turn. And this is also one of the drawbacks to Storm actually bringing in a lot of hate cards. So Electromancer coming in is fine. It's reducing spells by 2, but it's a lot of times having 2 of these out is redundant. So there's a Ajani Strength of the Pride. That's just more mana efficient to put it out. And that, I mean, it gains 1 less life at this point. And we can get up to a range where opponent cannot dish off enough damage to actually kill us, especially with the Rest in Peace. However, it still is scary with like another Echoing Truth. We have another Ajani's Pridemate out here too, so opponent's going to go for it. Gifts Ungiven's pretty bad here. Needs to find another Echoing Truth. Yeah, that Echoing Truth on the Ajani's Pridemate I think is going to be the difference between the game. Unless there's a second one. Because we're not in any sort of danger from a Grape Shot, I wouldn't assume. But it's also got to speed it up too. Only 8 minutes to try to combo off, or 9 minutes. Repeal on the Soul Attendant. Rather than the Rest in Peace? I mean, I guess. Spark of Canal goes into play tapped. Another Desperate Ritual. Another Electromancer. I mean, that's way overkill now. I mean, I guess the Gifts Ungivens can be cast for 1 now. Empty the Warrens. All right, so my opponent went for an Empty the Warrens. The Empty Warrens cannot kill us. I do not know why Empty the Warrens was brought in. Yeah, it's just... My opponent just lost the game because I just go a Giant Strength of Pride negative here. Very weird. Unless there's a... No, my opponent can go Grape Shot. Put out of cards. And I have a huge 15/15 that can block forever. And an Auriok Champion that can block these forever. We have multiple turns we can block. No Grape Shot. Giant Strength of Pride... Yeah, my opponent will scoop here. So we'll just go... negative... on the Giant Strength of Pride. So that's why my opponent didn't go for Rest in Peace, because they're going for an all-in Empty the Warrens, which shouldn't have been brought in. Like, we have a very terrible matchup versus Storm. Extremely terrible. I actually don't even know if you bring in Echoing Truce and Repeal, because, I mean, I've probably played this matchup more times than this player's played the Storm deck. Just Soul Sisters versus Storm in the history of how much I've played Modern. And, I mean, Echoing Truth Repeals, those are okay to bring in to shut down cards like Rest in Peace and other subrogate cards. But sometimes versus these slower aggro-based decks, even if they hit a Rest in Peace, they shut down their explosiveness on their turn 2 or turn 3 whenever they cast it. And you can actually get up with just the amount of cards in your deck, get up to a big enough Grape Shot just to go 20 damage to the face. And I think that is a better strategy than trying to bring in Empty the Warrens. Unless this is in the main, they just haven't Empty the Warrens. But see how many cards just got dumbed down by throwing in, you know, Empty the Warrens, Repeal, and Echoing Truth. That could have been whatever they took out in that case. Possibly like Gifts Ungiven or other ways to dig. I'm not sure. Anyway, we didn't really get to see the Stoneforge Mystic interaction, but you have some Soul Sisters videos here. It's still a pretty decent deck. We'll have to test it in an actual tournament to see what the meta is shifting out to be and whatnot. One other card that I think could easily go on the sideboard of Stoneforge Mystic is becoming an issue is Manriki Gusari. It's an equipment that destroys other equipments. That one's also interesting to put in the list. I hope you enjoyed this video, though. I'll definitely get back to doing more modern deck techs and videos. Be looking forward to streams in September. Probably will happen in the morning, but we'll have the highlights on YouTube. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.